Switching gears now, clearly the elections will be the biggest story of 2024, as Steve and I were just talking about. But the biggest question about the elections is whether voters will decide the outcome or whether it's going to be a politically motivated group of judges and prosecutors, et cetera. Joining us now is Trump attorney Alina Habba. Alina, great to see you. Let's talk about that in a second. But first, I got to mention Jack Smith's loss today in his rush to get to trial before the election. What do you make of that? And is it going to become obvious, because he may come out and actually say what we all know he's thinking, which is he wants the election, he wants the decision in the Supreme Court to be before the election. He wanted the trial to be before the election, and now it looks like he's further away from that goal.
Yeah, it's called election interference. That is 100% what this was, and I'm really pleased with the Supreme Court. It really restored my faith in my profession, frankly. The Supreme Court saw through this. There was no urgent application necessary by Jack Smith. He was trying to usurp the appellate division and go right up to the Supreme Court to have them hear issues of presidential immunity, which is an absolute immunity that presidents have for a very good reason. And frankly, so that they don't have to have DAs and AGs come after them after their presidency in this political witch hunt. And the Supreme Court ruled today that Jack Smith did not have reason to do so. He needed to stay the course, go through the normal procedures as everybody else. He had no urgency, and there was no dissent in the Supreme Court's decision. So it was a very great day for Team Trump, and we'll keep pushing.
You know, of course, the irony, I don't have to tell you, Alina, but just to remind everybody, that would be election interference, as I think you rightly said. He wants to interfere with the election by getting a conviction of Donald Trump before the election from a very favorable court, if he can find one. And ironically, this is a case he's charging Donald Trump with election interference when that's exactly what he's trying to do.
Yeah, exactly. For saying to peacefully and patriotically march, and to say that he wants to look at the election because he believes that the election was stolen. We've seen since January 6th, since this case that is completely politically motivated, we've seen the same judge have to stay her trial pending decisions on immunity, number one. Number two, we've seen that she's treated unfairly. These January 6th people that were arrested, some of them have not been heard in courts yet. So due process is really not about what people have done. That's for the courts to decide on a case-by-case basis. But normal due process in America has its place, and we can't try and rush due process when it suits them. They have year-long investigations, and then they brought all these cases, David, right before the election so that he's not on the campaign trail, so that he's out there doing nothing to help his campaign. Instead, what they don't realize, which I think the polls show, is that the more you try and attack Trump, the more you try and tie him up in these witch hunts and court cases, they're going to get stopped, and they're going to be seen by the Americans as an attempt to usurp the GOP and the Republican Party. Well, it's so desperate.
Even Democrats see that. I mean, we should remember that horrible Colorado decision where they take him off the ballot because of he's an insurrectionist, when nobody has convicted him. Right. Nobody has even charged him. I mean, why do you think Jack Smith didn't charge Donald Trump with insurrection? Because he knew he wouldn't get the conviction, right?
100%. And where's due process? That Colorado court, they're going to have it handed to them, I got to tell you. And it's going to be an embarrassing day. I believe, like many other legal scholars have said, this is going to be a 9-0 decision. There is just no justification. We have not even gone through the proceedings. And frankly, when we do, it will show that there was absolutely nothing done wrong. There are issues with our election integrity, and the president had reason to ask for them to look into it. It would be the first insurrection without weapons and without war. It's crazy, but yeah. What we're seeing is across the board DAs and AGs that are politically motivated. And I'm really grateful for the Supreme Court to step in and see through that.
Well, actually, you know who else I'm grateful for are 3 of those Colorado justices who were appointed by Democrats, said very clearly that there was no case here, that this was an outrageous decision. Right. I think more Democrats are also realizing how this lawfare is so unconstitutional and so against the American way. In fact, I just have to read to you, Kim Strassel wrote a great piece in the Wall Street Journal today about the way in which the Supreme Court gets sandbagged by all this. She says, if the justices rule against Mr. Trump in these suits, the left accomplishes an immediate political goal. If they rule in Mr. Trump's favor, the left smears the justices and ramps up its campaign to pack the court. The only difference I have with Kim in that logic, and I see the logic, is that I think the American people have caught on to it. If 3 Democrat justices in Colorado have caught on to it, I think a lot more Democrats out there, and certainly independents, have caught on to it as well. I don't think they're going to allow a packing of the Supreme Court. Do you?
No, I don't. Look, at the end of the day, it's a shame that it has to go as far as the Supreme Court. That is reserved for the utmost difficult decisions that really affect this country. And the fact that we've gotten there so fast is very telling. These cases are so political, and to put that burden on them is not fair. But I will say today, there was no dissent. There was dissenting opinions in the Colorado case, as you mentioned, but today there was none. It was one sentence. No, this doesn't qualify. We're not hearing this right now, and moving on. So it's restoring my faith, honestly, in our judicial system. And I'm a big critic of it when I see it going wrong, but today restored my faith.
I love that. It was one sentence, no, Jack Smith, you don't got it. Yeah. I mean, it was that simple. Bye-bye, try again. Alina Habba, thank you so much for being here. Have a wonderful Merry Christmas and to your family as well.
Thank you, you too. Merry Christmas.
Thank you very much.